the Gardener's Corner program on WKRX 96.7 FM, 1430 WRXO AM, and TV Channel 10 that can be found on Spectrum Channel 191. We welcome you into the program. We're brought to you by T.G. Brooks Company and Our Pride Foods, makers of Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip. As we always have a guest on the program with us from the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service, where their motto is empowering people, providing solutions. If you would, please make welcome, all the way from the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service. He divides his time between Person and Granville counties. If you would, make welcome the horticultural agent, Johnny Coley.
Thank you, Rob. What an introduction.
Good morning, Johnny. Let's get that a little closer to you.
All right.
And that way maybe people can hear you, and I'm sure
clear
they would a whole lot rather hear what you're saying than what I say.
Well, unfortunately, we have TV here, too. I've got a radio face, but the TV sort of picks up other things.
Yeah, I had somebody tell me a few weeks ago that I had the face made for radio, and I said, well, I appreciate your confidence and the compliment.
You're going to take it as a compliment regardless of how they meant it. So.
We are live in the studio today. The last couple of weeks we've had to pre-record the Gardener's Corner program due to some schedules with some of the personnel here at the radio station, and then some events that's been going on that's been sponsored by the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service. But if you got a question for Johnny, if you're having a problem with something going on in your landscape and garden, please feel free to give us a call, 336-599-0266. And I'm not going to guarantee that we can answer your question, but I can guarantee you we won't charge you for trying to.
And we'll find the answer somewhere.
That's right.
It may not be today, but we'll get the answer to you.
That's
so,
right.
That'll be good.
Anyway, the last time Johnny was on the program, we was down at Sandling Golf Cars in Oxford, and anyway, glad to have him back. And Johnny, he stays busy. He wears many different hats. And before we get into more or less your job of being the horticultural agent for Person and Granville counties, how are your bees doing?
Oh. Well, they're still busy. They're still buzzing in and out. I need to look at them and see how they're doing. Really, it's been a couple of weeks since I've looked in the hive, but hope Mr. Medlin's not listening. He wouldn't be happy with me. Anyway, we got a couple of hives about 2 months ago, I guess. Now
Right.
It's been a while, and we've been in them once, I think, and they had not quite filled out the hive body, so we left them alone, didn't put a super on, but we need to get a super on pretty soon, from what I understand, so they can make some money for the winter.
Right.
Because the spring or early summer forage is about over with, and we're going into a drought time during the summer. Then we'll have to pick up again in the fall. So
Right.
But they're still working real well, and we're doing good with them. So. That's on my plans for the 4th of July weekend. Try to get in there and take a look and see how they are doing. But they're busy bees.
For our listeners that's maybe interested in maybe getting started raising honeybees, just want to let you know that Person County has a beekeepers association, and they typically meet once monthly. And if you'd be interested in finding out more information, just call the Person County Cooperative Extension Service office, 336-599-1195. Johnny, we've got a caller this morning. Thank you for calling the Gardener's Corner program. How can we help you? Hello? Thank you for calling the Gardener's Corner program. Hello? Well, for some reason, are you there? Hello? Well, evident. Oh, there's Mr. Click. We appreciate Mr. Click calling in. We lost connection with the caller, but if you want to call back, we'll try to get you on air. We sure will. Anyway, we're going to talk about some beneficial insects, and we'll also talk about some of those pesky insects. That's going to be part of the topic of the program today. But we're going to kind of jump right in, and I guess it was a couple of weeks ago, yesterday, Thursday, I was invited to attend a meeting at the Person County Public Library. Johnny was also there, and we had been invited by Mr. Tommy Bowes. And other than Johnny and myself, Gina Lunsford with Roxborough Community School was there. Also, the FFA director at Person High School and ag teacher David Jones was there. Also, it was a couple of ladies, Dr. Carver, and I do not recall the other lady's name that was there representing Piedmont Community College, and several other people there. But what the meeting was about, it is some interest of starting an urban garden. And Tommy Bowes was approached by an individual that was expressing some interest in getting something started on these lines. And so Tommy contacted several different people, and they actually had another meeting yesterday at the actual site, but I was not able to attend. But anyway, Johnny has attended the meeting, and pretty much from what I gathered in the first meeting, they are wanting to start this urban garden to have volunteers to come in and help maintain everything. And the ultimate goal of the fruits and the labor is what, Johnny?
Well, to go back to the community, they call them community gardens, because people in the community actually have an area that they can tend. It depends on how you set the garden up. But we actually laid out 4x8 areas for raised beds. Don't know that that's the way. This is the very infant stages of this whole project, so don't really know which direction we're going to go in right now. But possibly people renting or leasing or whatever, just the small areas, and they can have a space that they can raise a garden in, and have it a site, a raised area. Raised beds are fairly easily maintained versus a conventional garden,
Right.
Where you have the rows and also a little bit more intensely planted. So we decided to maybe start with the raised beds, but again, nothing set in stone yet. Still just sort of trying to feel our way around to be next year before anything is really done.
Right. Well, you've got to start somewhere, and hopefully things will work out. And anyway, we'll do our best to keep you updated as that kind of develops. But I think it's a wonderful idea because, it's a lot of people would enjoy gardening, but they just don't have a place to do such.
Place to do it. That's true.
And so, hey, we've got a caller. Let's try one more time. Thank you for calling the Gardener's Corner program. Hello.
Yes.
How can we help you today?
Yes, I have raccoons destroying my sweet corn. And do you have any ideas on how to get rid of them?
Raccoons, they just riding it down, and yeah, raccoons can be trouble on the sweet corn. Trapping is the only thing I know. It's nothing really deterring that I know of. I don't know if there's any repellents out there. I don't know of any specific repellents, but there may be some repellents that you can spray the corn with. But other than that, trapping them is about the only thing. I was at a gentleman's house yesterday, and
Okay.
he talked.
Well, we lost him, but maybe he's listening.
Yeah.
So.
I was at a gentleman's house yesterday, and he said he had trapped several raccoons in his garden. They seem to be they're very trappable animals, I guess, if that's a word. They not too hard to trap like the groundhog. Groundhog is a difficult one to trap. They don't go into have a heart trap very easily, but that's really the only thing I know of. Like I said, the repellents, and I don't know of one specifically, but there may be some out there. and then the traps. But yeah, they're a nuisance on the corn because they just get down, they knock the stalk down so they can get to it, and they'll eat it up, and they got a big appetite. So.
Yeah, you know, if you could get you one of these traps that will actually catch the animal alive, and then you can remove the animal from the property and maybe relocate it somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times wildlife is a really big challenge with gardening, whether it's raccoons, squirrels, deer, and other, you know, wildlife animals. One thing that it's a couple of things that some people try. I have heard of someone taking raw eggs and diluting them in water, and then you spray this mixture around the perimeter of your garden,
Yeah.
and it gives off the scent of you know, rotten eggs. And then it's actually a chemical. I don't know the name of it, Johnny, but you can buy this chemical, and it pretty much, you know, does the same thing. It puts off a smell of rotten eggs. And then I remember whenever anybody talks about having problems with wildlife, I remember a gentleman telling me just a few years back, I talked to him one day, and he told me he was spraying tobacco. And I said, what are you spraying tobacco for, suckers? And he said, no. He said, we've got deer eating the tobacco. And I said, well, how do you, you know, keep a deer from eating tobacco? And he said, well, he said, we take 1 gallon of Texas Pete hot sauce and mix it with 300 gallons of water. I think that was the mixture. And he said, we spray the tobacco, and he said, deer have a very low tolerance for anything that is hot.
Capsaicin.
And yeah, capsaicin. I couldn't think of that word, so thank you for mentioning it. And he says they were doing that. And it's also some products that you can buy to spray your garden that will give a bad taste to the wildlife if they're trying to indulge on eating it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it works,
Yeah.
but you know, it's one of those things that it would be worth a try.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about is it's not harmful to humans to apply these products. And also, it's something else that I've heard people talk about. And Carl Cantalupi was the first one that introduced me to it. And I think it's called a scarecrow. But what this thing is, you run a garden hose to it, and you keep the water turned on. And the scarecrow has a motion detector in it, and it's battery powered. So anytime that something walks in front of this scarecrow, it shoots a stream of water, and that kind is a deterrent. But now, how well the scarecrow works, I don't know. But Carl Cantalupi used to talk about that. And with that being said, one suggestion: if you do try the scarecrow, just be mindful of when you're out and you're in front of that, the scarecrow does not recognize a human from wildlife, so it could. That's exactly right. So, but you know, when you talk about the groundhogs are really, you know, extremely aggravating, and I've heard a lot of people talk about different ways to get rid of them, and I even had someone mention to me, I guess maybe a month or so ago, that they was told that it was some type of chemical or herbicide or pesticide or whatever it is that you could put in a groundhog hole and it would take care of them. And I was telling them, I said, I've had people to say, if you put maybe some the little chiclet chewing gum or gum balls down in the hole, that they will chew that and then they can't digest it and it would kill them. Now, whether or not that works, I don't know. But I will say this, I have put some gum balls in some groundhog holes, and I don't know if it got rid of any of them, but it's still groundhogs active at the location. So
Yeah, they're tough. They're tough. Lead poisoning works pretty good.
That's,
but you gotta catch them in the right area.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. But you know, the groundhogs and wildlife, they are very smart because, you know, they pretty much know humans' schedules better than the person knows them themselves. You know, so
they do. They know when you're gone.
that's right. But anyway, like I say, no foolproof way that I'm aware of to keep the raccoons out of the you know, sweet corn.
Yeah.
But you know, it used to be a black gentleman that used to help us back in tobacco, and he's dead and gone now. But whenever we would sow the plant bed, and you know, that was back when people used to have a plant bed for tobacco plants and not a greenhouse.
Yeah.
He would be out there helping sow the plant bed, and he would say, some for the birds, some for the wind, and some for me. So I guess maybe one secret is when you plant things, maybe plant a little extra for the wildlife, and then maybe you'll get a little bit too. So, but anyway, but Johnny, you was telling me that within the past couple of weeks that you was there at the Person County Public Library doing a presentation on beneficial insects. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. The beneficial, in fact, the name of it, pests and pets of your garden.
Okay.
We have pests in our garden, and we have pets in our garden, and knowing the difference between the two, and knowing what we have is a big thing as far as treating the insects. You don't want to kill your beneficials in the process of trying to get rid of your insects that are actually hurting your plants. There's been a study that there's about 1% of the pests or the insects that actually do harm to our garden, and the rest
Only
of them,
1%.
Yeah, 1% do harm, and the rest of them are actually beneficial. So in some way or another. Now we have to qualify beneficial, and I mentioned this at the talk on Saturday that you know, termite in your house is not a beneficial insect, but a termite in the woods breaking down logs is a beneficial. You know, a honeybee pollinating your garden is a beneficial insect. 5 or 6 bees in your car when you're driving down the road is not a beneficial insect. So you have to qualify beneficial.
Right, I got you. Johnny, I think we've got a call, so let's take care of it. Thank you for calling the Gardener's Corner program.
Good morning. I have a crepe myrtle that I transplanted from my grandmother's yard years ago. It's got plenty of green leaves, but have never had a bloom. And I just wondered what I could do to get it to bloom.
Is it full sun?
Full sun.
Full sun area. I've run across this. Do you fertilize your lawn? Is it close to where you would fertilize your lawn with a high nitrogen fertilizer, perchance?
Yeah, it's close.
Okay. A lot of times, if the fertility gets off, or you get a lot of nitrogen in the soil, and it puts off a lot of foliage, puts off a lot of shoots, but it doesn't set flower. That it puts all its energy into just putting off shoots. That's one scenario. Phosphorus, adding phosphorus, bone meal is a good source for phosphorus. I believe it's 10% phosphorus in bone meal. It's a good organic source that you don't have to worry about burning it. If you need a lot of phosphorus, triple superphosphate would be another way to add. It's like 45-46% phosphorus. But I'd probably do a soil test to find out what kind of relationship of phosphorus we have. Phosphorus will encourage blooms. and that maybe just a nitrogen to phosphorus ratio that's off a little bit, that need to add some phosphorus. Phosphorus does not move through the soil very quickly, so it's or the plant very quickly either, so it takes a little while to get it established. But that's the only two things other than the sun, if it's in a lot of shade. But I know we harp on soil tests quite a bit, but not knowing what the soil is as far as nutrient value, that would be the first place I would start, is doing a soil test.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
We appreciate the call. Thank you. Yeah, and Johnny, I know a lot of people think that, God, those guys, all they want to talk about is doing soil samples, but really and truly, it's something that you should take advantage of, because from the end of March up until Thanksgiving, it is a free test. The only thing, you have to collect your soil yourself, turn it in to your local cooperative extension service office, and they will get it sent off to the North Carolina Department of Agriculture, and they will do your soil testing free of charge, and they will email you your results. Now, again, if you take advantage of the free soil sampling, it runs from, say, April 1st to Thanksgiving, and from December 1st till the last day of March, it's a $4 per fee charge. And the reason that they started charging for this during those time periods was to try to encourage people to do soil samples when in the off-peak months, so to speak.
Yeah. A lot of the farmers are doing theirs during the winter months, getting ready for the putting the crops back in the spring.
And see, now here it is, almost to be July. Tomorrow will be the first day of July, and cool season grasses, the time to start fertilizing cool season grasses is in September. So if you want to go ahead and get your soil samples taken care of, it'll probably take you about 2 weeks to get the results. So just kind of going through a timeline, that would put you up to, say, the middle part of July. But over the next month or so, go ahead and do your soil samples for cool season grasses. So by the time that you receive your results, you'll have time to prepare to start, fertilizing cool season grasses, in, mid-September. And also, something else would be a good idea for you to do over the next month anyway. You should go ahead and be doing more or less like a lawn analysis, and just when you're out mowing your lawn, out walking around, just kind of look around and just get an idea of what percentage of your lawn is grass and what percentage is weeds. And typically, if you have 50% or more weeds, the best way to remedy the problem is to spray your lawn with, and I never pronounce this word right, glyphosate. The trade name, I guess, or the marketed name that so many people call this Roundup. And but what you should do, go ahead and do your soil samples, get your results, and in the meantime, you spray your lawn to kill everything that's on it. Then when you receive your suggested recommendations for fertilizer and lime, you apply it, and then when you till up your lawn, you will till it up with the fertilizer and lime into the soil, and then in September, that's the time to seed cool season grasses. Now, if you're one that has Bermuda grasses, you should have already put some fertilizer on in June. You need to put some on in July and August. But again, if you got cool season grasses, the time to fertilize, again, is in the fall time of the year, and you can typically start in September.
Exactly. And get the soil test back in lime. You can lime a yard anytime.
That's right.
Fertilizer, you don't want to apply, but the lime, you can actually apply at any time. So if you get you get the results back and the pH is way off, or you need to apply more than one application of lime, it'll give you a head start on lime, because you can go ahead and put lime out, and it's not going to hurt anything.
Yeah. Well, and you know, Johnny, I think you made a good comment when the caller was calling in, and I have been told that lime is not something that you can put on today and see the results next week. It takes a while for lime to get into the soil and to start working. And you say that phosphorus is the same way?
Well, phosphorus just moves very slowly. It's an element, it's a nutrient that does not move very quickly through the plant. So, like nitrogen, you put it down and it just takes it right up, moves pretty quickly. But the phosphorus does not move as quickly. So it takes a little longer for it to see the results of adding some phosphorus.
And you know, I guess a lot of people maybe wonder and scratch your head, why do you fertilize, in September when, the fall time of the year is coming on? But what you want to do is you want to have everything to get acclimated to the soil and down to the roots. So when springtime rolls around, it's alive and thriving and growing well. But we'll get back to the topic at hand. And Johnny was saying that of insects that may be in your garden, you say only 1% of them.
Of all the insects throughout the world, about 1% are considered actual harmful or non-beneficial type insects, because insects are pollination is a big part of their benefit to us. It's estimated 30% of the crop production, whether it's fruits or vegetables, is needed. We need the insects to pollinate. We lose 30% of the production if we didn't have those to pollinate. And wind and rain, there's other elements that do some pollination, but the insects, responsible for probably at least 30% of them. So that's that's a big percent if we took that out of the equation. So we are very thankful that we do have the insects that'll pollinate. And there are other benefits to insects too. There are insects that eat other insects. So we find a ladybug, for instance. Most of us know ladybugs are a beneficial insect, and that they eat aphids. So when I see a ladybug in my garden or something, the first thing I start looking for are the aphids, because I figure there's got to be some somewhere.
Right.
And just assess how many there are. If there are enough that I think that that enough of the ladybugs are going to take care of them, there's no need to spray. So it's just scouting for insects and knowing the insect that you're spraying, and knowing the threshold that you can handle of certain insects without spraying. There's certain insects that as soon as you see one, you don't want to get rid of them, but some of them you can actually tolerate a few of.
Okay. Hey, we've got another caller. Thank you for calling the Gardener's Corner program.
Yes, sir. How you doing this morning?
Good. How about
Well.
you? How can we help you today?
Oh, I got a question on, do you know anything about jalapeno pepper?
Well,
They're
I
hot.
enjoy them, and sometimes some of them are a little bit hotter than I can tolerate, but that's about it. But what's your question?
All right, pepper could be pretty good size, ready to pick. Some of them is green on one side and black on the other. And some of them be big as a peanut shell, and it'd be turning black.
Right. Now,
I've had this problem before, but I got it this year.
well, I have seen some jalapeno peppers that would be green, and then a part of them would be really, really dark. Now, but you say these is a
Look, you do
peanut.
the stuff as I am, ain't you?
Yeah, and I've wondered. I just thought it was maybe a variety of the jalapeno. But now, are you saying that some of these happen when the pepper is small, or and then some of it happens when the pepper is large?
No, they be big, and some of them
big.
be green on one side, black on the other, and some of them be
Is-
about a peanut size. They be doing the same thing. And
What
when I
color?
take 'em, when people see that, they don't want to take them.
I
I
understand.
just want to know what is something
Yeah.
in my land this year, or is the same variety I've been raising for 10 years.
Is one side getting more sun? What color is getting the
You
most
stuff
sun?
like I am.
Yeah.
Well, are they planted in full sun, Terry?
Oh yeah.
Full sun. I don't. It's not
Planted
rotting or
plants,
anything.
got drip tape on them and everything. Get pretty good water and stuff.
So it's
I
not
never
rotting
did
or
it
anything. It just
before,
has a
but I
black.
got it this year. I just thought maybe somebody knew something more than I did, so I won't run into trouble next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Let me see what I can find out. Give me a call at the office, and let me get your phone number, and I'll get back with you and see if I can't find. I have seen that. I don't know that it's anything to be concerned about.
On the telephone here. I
Yeah.
hear you on the back
okay.
side of the shop.
All right. Well, what we'll do, Terry, I'll give him your phone number, and he'll do some research on it and give you a call. Okay?
All right, I'm outside here, and I got the radio on in the shop. Just give me about 10 minutes to run the number so I can write it down.
Okay. All right. We'll do it. Well, I'll give him your phone number and have him call you. Okay?
All right.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate the call.
Okay.
Yeah, I have seen some of the, on jalapeno peppers, and I've never really thought anything about it. A jalapeno pepper, if you leave it on the vine long enough, it will eventually turn red.
Yeah, I've seen them turn red.
And I didn't really think much
And
about
I've seen
it.
them turn sort of a purplish black on the vine too. Even in we used to raise some in gallon containers at the nursery, and they would actually flower and fruit, and they did. They had some dark, I'll call it striation that like through the. It didn't really solid purple or black, but it was sort of just streaks of solid of black and purple.
And I have eaten them, and I didn't per se notice any difference in
I don't know
what causes it.
but I'll see what I can find out.
I know we had someone ask earlier in the year about, how some jalapenos are hotter than others, and we talked a little bit about that, and I was speaking with someone, and they said, well, if you want hot peppers, you got to treat them like the devil. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, well, from what they gather is that you can't be too friendly to them. And they say,
Get dry and-
let them get, just about bone dry before you give them any water and all that stuff. But one thing that you can do if you're someone that enjoys a little bit of hot flavor, before you eat a jalapeno, if you'll kind of take it and roll it on the table a little bit before you eat it, that will sometimes make it a little bit hotter. And I've been told that the reason that when you roll it, it kind of maybe breaks up some of the oils or something in the pepper.
The seeds, usually the seeds
Yeah.
are hotter.
And I enjoy jalapenos, but I don't want them so hot you can't handle it.
Yeah,
Look, we're going to get a word on for Owl Pride Foods, makers of Owl Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip. You can buy the regular, or you can buy the jalapeno added. But when we come back, we're going to let you know how many insects
are actually estimated in the world. How
In the
many
world.
insects are actually considered to be in the world? I mean, nobody took a census or anything, but just an estimate. They may be off by a few digits. But anyway, we'll let you know what that number is when we come back.
Goodness grows in North Carolina. Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip is made in Roxborough. You can pick up some to enjoy at T.G. Brooks Company, Twins Market, Hurdle Mills Market and Butcher Shop, North Main IGA, Food Lion, Just Save, Supply Line Discounts in South Boston, Virginia, Kenyon's Meat Market in Mebane, and Bacon's Meat Market in Hillsboro. Or you can enjoy it at Cole's Pharmacy, Trish's Espresso, Snappy's Cafe, and the Clarksville Station. Whether you're having Owl Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip for a snack or a meal, it's delicious. Owl Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip is made by Owl Pride Foods in Roxborough. Pick up some and enjoy it today. For extra flavor, try the jalapeno added. That's Owl Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip. All right, here we are back on the Gardeners Corner program. We appreciate Owl Pride Premium Pimento Cheese. Anytime we have it, we appreciate it and enjoy it, and it's made right here in Roxborough by Owl Pride Foods. Well, before we heard from them, we kind of gave you a little bit of a teaser of what we were going to inform you about, and Johnny came in and he said, Rob, he said, I got some numbers today I want to give out to the listening audience, and I said, what kind of numbers have you got? And he said, well, he said, I've got the numbers on the insect population of the world.
But
So-
again, it's an estimation. It's probably off by a few digits. It could be off by a few million. But the estimated number is 10 quintillion. Now, that's a little higher than the national debt, but we're getting there quick. So I did count the zeros behind that, and it's 19 zeros. You got a 1 and then 19 zeros, and that's 10 quintillion is what they are.
Quintillions.
Quintillion. So I don't.
Wow.
I don't know. Had an uncle one time. He walked in and I was writing a check, and he said, "Write me one." He said, "I don't care what you put in front of it, just put a lot of zeros behind it." So I guess you put enough zeros behind any number, and it gets big. And
I've never heard of quintillions before.
Yeah, that was the first.
Wow.
And also, in another way to sort of make reference to how many insects there are in the world, for every pound of humans, so if you got all the humans in the world and put them on a scale, for every pound of them, there would be 300 pounds of insects.
Wow.
So I don't know how many insects, I don't know how many ants it takes to make a pound, but that's
It'd be a bunch,
a
wouldn't
lot of ants.
Well,
That's a lot of insects.
You know, Johnny, it's one of those things that, if you're out mowing grass and if you have a mayfly to bite you, it may take you a couple of swats to kill him. But just as soon as you kill that one, 2 more appear.
Show up, that's right.
And I was talking with a veterinarian a few days ago, and we was talking about fly control, different ways.
Yeah.
And several weeks ago on the show, Paul Westfall was here, and we was talking about, fly controls for cattle and horses and things. And it's several different types of horsefly traps, and Paul actually has a drawing of a horsefly trap, and anyway, he sent me the email, and I've actually talked to a person that owns one of these horsefly traps, and it's a couple of different ones, and I went to YouTube to see the different ones. But in talking with the veterinarian the other day, I was asking him about the horsefly traps, and he used to have some, and anyway, he just said that it seems like whenever you get rid of 5, you got 10 to replace those 5. But insects, as Johnny has said, can be beneficial at certain points, and then sometimes not so beneficial. And what makes a horsefly beneficial, I'm not sure, but they can be very aggravating to livestock and humans too. But when you was talking about insects pollinating about 30% of the fruits and vegetables, I remember in talking about the pawpaws, and would like to think about that bees being the sole only pollinator, but they're not. But bees are really beneficial and pollinating until they get in your car, as Johnny mentioned. But pawpaw trees, they are pollinated by flies.
Flies, that's right. The fruit, I mean not the fruit, the flower of the pawpaw actually smells fetid or like smells like rotting flesh. So somebody described it. I'll be honest, I've never actually smelled of a pawpaw bloom. I've seen some, but I haven't actually smelled them. But
Well,
for that
since you
reason,
told me
right.
that, I don't think I would
So
take the opportunity to smell of them either.
It does attract the flies to them, and that's the main pollinator for the pawpaws is the fly. So, not saying that if you planted pawpaws, I'm not trying to discourage anybody from planting pawpaws, because I don't think I actually have a trial that Carl actually started over in Granville County of some pawpaws, and I was out there when they were in full bloom, and I didn't smell anything. So
Right.
I think it's the scent of the fly that probably can smell it more so than we can, because I didn't have any scent. So we got in that trials 24, and they were all in bloom, and I didn't smell anything. So don't be discouraged. If you want to plant
Right.
pawpaws, don't let the smell discourage you.
Well, Carl brought in some pawpaws, and I kind of liked the taste of it. And it was a gentleman here that tried some, and he didn't care for it, but I kind of like the pawpaw.
Yeah, pawpaws are very good.
Yeah.
Carl gave us some too, and it was sort of looks like a mango almost, and it's a cross, but it's not a cross, but it's sort of the flavor is a cross between a banana and a mango, and maybe a little citrus undertones there.
Yeah.
It's a good fruit. It's very very good, and it's a native tree. It's hopefully with this trial we can get more people introduced to it and get more planted of varieties that do well around here.
Yeah.
We got 4 different varieties in this trial.
Well, Johnny, you were just saying that ladybugs are beneficial in the garden because they will eat aphids and things like that. And a lot of times when you want to control something, one of the best ways to control it is to get rid of their food source. But now, a lot of times when the insects are eating on your fruits and vegetables, you really can't get rid of them. But other than spraying, insecticides, but other than the ladybug, what are some of the other most beneficial insects that might be in the garden?
There's a lot of what they call parasitic wasp, and parasitic wasp is an umbrella of lots of different wasps that would be in your garden. And one example of a parasitic wasp would be on your tomato plant. You've probably seen the green hornworm or the tomato worm or tobacco worm, depending on what plant it's on, depending on is what people call it. But the green tobacco worm, and then you see little white sacs on their back. Well, that's the parasitic wasp. Parasitic wasp has laid eggs on the actual worm at a certain stage, and they've hatched, and that's the little white sacs you see is actually the cocoon of the parasitic wasp. Now, when you see those white, a lot of times, and I've been guilty of it myself, you see those white sacs on it, you take it off and you stomp it.
Yeah.
You don't really want to do that, because that hornworm is pretty much
Done
for you. It's pretty much toast when you see those eggs, because they're just going to eat him from the inside out pretty much. So he's pretty much gone, but that's the next crop of that parasitic wasp. So if you kill or step on that worm, you're killing the parasitic wasp and the worm. So once you see those sacs, just leave it alone. It's not going to do any more harm to your tomato plant, but it'll raise that next generation of parasitic wasp that will be a beneficial insect for you. So that's
Good
the way
idea, and I too have done the same thing. But it was some years back that I learned that when you seen one of the tobacco worms, it had the little white things coming out of it. That was, to leave it alone,
Yeah.
because it was some good to come of that.
And you can also, if you know what you're looking for, know the right life stage that you're looking for. If you see some beneficial insects in your lawn or in an area that's grown up, maybe you can bring them back, the beneficials, and put them in your in your area of your flower garden or your vegetable garden, and have introduced the beneficials to your area. So that's
Hey, that's a
another way
good
to get 'em in
idea.
there.
It sure is. We need to get a word on for T.G. Brooks Company. T.G. Brooks Company, no matter the time of the year, they're on top of it. You still got time to plant a late garden, still got time to plant some late sweet corn, tomato, squash, all of the above. And maybe if you're thinking about doing some grilling out over the weekend, or maybe on Tuesday, the 4th of July, grilling up some ribeye steaks, they have hand-cut ribeyes at T.G. Brooks Company, located 411 Helena Marai Road in Timberlake. We'll be back after this.
What a terrific spring we have been enjoying. Now June and July are the months when we start to see the fruits of our spring labor in our yards and gardens. The planting season has been a good one, and you still have time to plant vegetables and flowers for a summer of beauty. So get on down there, and when the gardens come in, they have your canning jars in half pints, pints, quarts, half gallons, plus pressure cookers, pressure canners, bath canners, strainers, funnels, and most other canning supplies. It's also wide open lawn and garden time. T.G. Brooks Company has plenty of tomato plants, lots of them too. They have vegetable plants of all kinds, and garden seed and flowers ready to plant. T.G. Brooks has your irrigation supplies and your water hose and nozzles and sprinklers and all that you need during the drier weeks. Reseed your lawn with fresh seed, and they have the fertilizer and lime. They have sprayers, both tank and backpack, and if you need mulch, wow, do they have it in abundance, even the triple ground mulch. They have your insecticides for vegetables and fungicides. They have chemicals for your grass protection and bug protection, too, for home pest control. In fact, all of your garden and home chemical needs are at one spot. No matter if you are the homeowner or commercial landscaper, they take the time to give everybody the same courteous service. They can arrange delivery or pull in with your pickup truck, your trailer, your van. They'll load it up, those bagged products. When the day is done, nothing tops it off like a hand-cut ribeye steak cooked to your desired level on your grill, and they have them. They'll cut them to your thickness and likeness. Also, top it off with ice cream, homemade ice cream with the famous white mountain ice cream freezers that they have for you. Serving you since way back in 1936. T.G. Brooks Company welcomes from people all over Person County, Rougemont, and northern Durham, and of course, southern Person County.
All righty, here we are back on the Gardener's Corner program. We've got just a few more minutes, and Johnny, you said you wanted to close the show out by talking about spraying?
Yeah, well, just spraying pesticides, insecticides in general, right, that we're talking about pests today. I mentioned earlier in the show, you need to know what the insect is before you reach for the 7 and spray. We always thought 7 was the cure-all for everything, but 7 doesn't kill all insects. So you need to know what the insect is that you're spraying before you reach for the bottle of insecticide. Spraying in late evening is going to be your best time to spray, to not injure the more beneficial insects, especially the honeybees. Honeybees sort of go back to the hive and the nest, in the late evening, so you don't have as many out there foraging. So that's a good time to spray the insects. And the most important thing, you always heard the old adage of there's 3 things to remember when starting a business, and that's location, location, location.
Right.
Well, there's 3 things also to remember when you're spraying. Especially any kind of insecticide or pesticide, is read the label, read the label, read the label. So you just need to make sure what the label says and make sure that what you're spraying that insecticide is gonna kill or control what you're trying to spray, and it is safe to spray on what you're spraying it on, because you can burn some insecticides. I've actually in the past sprayed something that was supposed to kill a particular insect, but if it's not on the label, you can burn that plant. So you have to be careful and test it. A lot of times they say test it and let it sit for a couple of weeks, and that's actually what I did with this particular product. And about 2 days after I sprayed the rest of the crop, it showed up on the first crop. So
Really?
you have to be careful, and give it plenty of time to have the effects of it. So you just know what you're spraying and know that it won't hurt the plant that you're spraying it on.
And sometimes, after you read the label one time, it doesn't hurt to read it maybe a second or third time.
Exactly. I usually have to read it every time I get ready to spray
Yeah.
it because I forget the ratio of what the amount you're supposed to put in there. So I have to read it every time. And I usually, you do pick up something that you maybe missed the first time.
Yeah, it is really important that you do so because what you're trying to do whenever you're spraying is to make things better, and you certainly don't want to
make it worse.
Make it worse.
That's
You sure
right.
don't. So, well, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Gardener's Corner program. We appreciate everybody for tuning in, and we hope that you enjoyed the program today.